Good morning. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. On this Tuesday, the 1st of November, 2022, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Although I'm sure that many of you would prefer to stay in, but we all have obligations, at least to remember those who are our dear departed relatives and friends. Marami po sa atin ang nawalan during, namatayan, nawalan ng mahal sa buhay during COVID pandemic, particularly in 2020 and 2021. So let us all say a prayer of remembrance for all of them and remember the good things that they had done in life and take them as example. Ika nga, we are not promised tomorrow, so let us start living the day by day. Okay, now let's move on to our daily starter, and if I am not mistaken, our daily starter medyo sumasabit ang aking kodigo dito because of technical difficulties. But our daily starter comes from the Bible, from Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Given at the time already past the boundary for senior citizens, I can testify to the fact that those of us who have always relied on the word of the Lord, the promise of God, and kept our faith with the faithful God, kahit papaano po, nasasariwaan, our strengths are renewed, we have fresh visions, and we have new dreams even in our later years. So those of you who may be struggling today because you're a victim of COVID, or you have family affected by Typhoon Paeng or any other challenge, remember that verse from the book of Isaiah, that when we rely on the Lord, umasa tayo sa Panginoon, and we will soar once again. We will find our strength. And for those of you who are elderly like me, sorry po, no? Medyo ako nagplano na ako, gumagawa na naman ako ng bagong plano sa buhay because until we are permanently horizontal or powdered, medyo banat lang ng banat, fight ng fight with the Lord. Okay, let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star, November 1, and here we go. We have a headline: no national state of calamity according to Bongbong Marcos, while the death toll soars to 98. Mukhang nagkakataon. It seems that the death toll is slowly crawling and catching up with the other death tolls that happened over the same weekend in Korea, in I think Somalia or Mogadishu, and in India. Medyo talaga pong in the hundreds yung mga namatay na tao all over the world. Mukhang dito sa Pilipinas, we are slowly catching up, and unfortunately, we don't want those statistics on air, but it's the reality. And if anything, it makes our topic for today very relevant. We will be discussing yung isa sa mga kinaiinis at pinag-uusapan ngayon sa Malacanang. But let's go to back to the front page first. So, national state of calamity, no national state of calamity, according to President Bongbong Marcos and his officials. Hindi kailangan, no need to declare a national state of calamity, only localized state of calamities, because not all areas of the Philippines were actually hit by Typhoon Paeng. Now, let's go to the header. South Korea probes deadly Halloween crowd surge. You see that photo there. those are investigators trying to piece together what happened during the Halloween festivities in Itaewon, Seoul, South Korea. And medyo nabalitaan ko, merong isang artista raw na Korean na K-pop yata or K-drama na namatay din doon sa incident na yun. On the other side of the paper, India bridge collapse kills 132. Yan yung sinasabi ko po, that over the weekend, the number of people who were killed in different places, wala pa nga dito yung nangyaring two car bombings sa, if I'm not mistaken, Somalia. Anyway, India bridge collapse kills 132, and according to reports, many of them were children who were viewing a particular festivity on top of the bridge, and the bridge could not handle the weight. Further down the front page, disaster responsive 2023 national budget eyed. Okay, the Senate will review and readjust some provisions of the proposed 5,268 billion national budget to make it more responsive to disasters as the chamber prepares its plenary deliberations on the appropriation measure upon the resumption of Congress. That is a key adjustment because even President BBM has expressed somewhat surprised or disbelief. Actually, I mean, I'm sure he knew about it, but disbelief that climate change has really become our daily, if not monthly, reality here in the Philippines. So adjusting the budget to have provisions for calamities is a sensible thing to do. Meanwhile, COVID positivity rate in NCR down to 10%. Okay. The percentage of people testing positive for COVID-19 in Metro Manila is down to 10% according to the Okta Research Group. Now, that is very good, and that means that Filipinos, particularly those in NCR, are either being very careful, very vigilant, or no longer reporting. Yun po ang problema, because many people, when they get sick, they just stay home and treat these situations like they have a flu, they have a fever, no more RT-PCR, and bihira na po yung nag-antigen testing. So that may be one of the reasons why the numbers are also down. Meanwhile, while we are all recovering from Typhoon Paeng, another typhoon has entered the Philippine area of responsibility, Queenie. Okay, Tropical Storm Queenie. Medyo pasensya na po kayo, baka nalilito na kayo. Ano ba talaga, Kuyang? Typhoon, storm, whatever. Mamaya kakausapin natin yung guest natin kasi maraming asar na from all of these changes. Panahon namin, may masamang panahon o may bagyo, period. Okay, ngayon. Okay, Tropical Storm Queenie entered the Philippine area of responsibility yesterday morning and has started to affect the country as it moves towards eastern Visayas. Okay, so yun po, no, hindi pa tapos ang kalbaryo ng mga kapatid natin on the eastern side. Please expect more rains, and even here in my place in Barrio Capitolio, the skies are a bit it's quite dim outside. Hindi sunny day today. Meanwhile, cops insist no lapses in securing middleman. The director of the National Capital Region Police Office yesterday insisted that the PNP had no lapses in trying to secure June Villamor, the alleged middleman in the killing of radio broadcaster Percy Lapid. Okay. Yun po, no? Kasi nagsisisihan na, nagbibintangan na dyan sa kaso na yan. But you can see, you will notice from the front page of the Philippine Star, that particular story is beginning to become smaller and smaller as the typhoon or the disaster that caused by Typhoon Paeng becomes more prominent and prominent. Ganun po ang balita. Meanwhile, okay, the Villar Group inaugurates Vista Mall Naga, okay, new wing. Villar Group Chairman Manny Villar and Deputy Speaker Camille Villar graced the official launch of Vista Mall's Naga expansion with the opening of 10 new stores. Ayan, ika nga talagang lumalawak ang kanilang kaharian sa malls. Okay, meanwhile, photo on the lower right area of the Philippine Star front page. Coast Guard, provided by the Coast Guard, shows rescuers still searching for missing bodies in Barangay Kusyong, Datu Udin, Sinsuat, Maguindanao yesterday. Victims of the massive mudslide had mistakenly thought a tidal wave was coming and ran to the high ground where they were buried alive by the boulder-laden deluge. Ayun po, no? Parang parang yung nangyari noon sa Mindanao, ganyan na ganyan din sa tabing ilog sa Mailigan, ganyan na nangyari. Last but not the least, ito po a day of sadness yesterday as news broke that the Apo Hiking Society's Danny Javier, OPM pioneer, yung bumuo nung sa katagang OPM or Original Filipino Music Pioneer, died at 75. Medyo matagal pong nakipaglaban si kaibigang Danny Javier, si Kuya Danny. But unfortunately, we all pass on when God says time up. Pass your papers, finish or not finish. Okay, so maraming salamat, Danny Javier, for the time you gave me as a broadcaster and as a friend, and also on behalf of the Filipino people who benefited from your good works in songwriting and in music. Okay, that about covers the front page of the Philippine Star. And now let us go to our interview portion just to set it up, ladies and gentlemen, so you know why we are timing this. Kasi baka sabihin mo, Sito, dapat Halloween o kaya November 1 ang pag-usapan natin. Today we have asked someone who is one of the country's most respected experts. I don't know if you would call him a climatologist ba ang tawag doon or whatever, pero he's respected, and the group he has represented or the issues he talked about has always been meaningful for our public safety and concern. Because recently, President Marcos himself said patatawag niya yung PAG-ASA, yung NDRRMC, to explain bakit ang daming namatay sa Maguindanao mudslide, bakit ang daming nasisira or tinamaan ng typhoon, etc. What can we do better to prevent all of this loss of life and damage to property? Apparently, we have a system. But the system, as always, when there is a change of government, the system is changed. So anyway, Gab, roll the Betamax, please.
Professor Mahar Lagmay is the Executive Director of the University of the Philippines Resilience Institute. Since 2017, UPRI has formally adopted the UP NOAA Center, which used to be called Project NOAA or Project Nationwide Operational Assessment of Hazard. Lagmay was also the lead of that project. Concurrently, Professor Lagmay also teaches at the National Institute of Geological Sciences at UP Diliman. Given his expertise, he has published several detailed analyses of major disasters in the country.
Okay, good morning, Professor Mahar Lagmay. Welcome back to the program Agenda.
Hello, good morning, Chito.
Chito po.
November 1 ngayon.
Okay. Well, good morning and thank you for making time. I know it's a holiday, pero I couldn't resist calling out and reaching out to you because mismong si President Bongbong Marcos nagsabi, patatawag niya yung NDRRMC, patatawag niya yung Pag-asa to explain bakit tayo tinamaan ng indulto. Now, what is your reaction to all of this? Because from what I remember and as the intro pointed out, meron tayong Project NOAA noon. Project pa ba yun? Hindi ba tapos na yung project na yun? Functioning system na yun? And could you explain it?
Yeah, actually, Project NOAA lang ang pangalan niya, but it is really a program. No? It's called the NOAA program of DOST, and there were 21 projects under that program. Ginawa lang namin Project NOAA because it sounds sexy. It's sexier than Program NOAA. Pangit naman, di ba? Program NOAA, walang dating eh. Pag Project NOAA, kinoy ni Mon Liborian, maganda pakinggan. No? So, hindi lang naman kasi science ang importante. Ang importante, you catch the attention of the people so that they will listen. No?
Okay.
Hence, it was named Project NOAA. Maraming mga projects dyan, yung high resolution mapping, sensors deployment, over 2,000 sensors that gathers rain data from all over the world, from all over the Philippines, mga water level sensors, pag tumataas yung tubig sa ilog, na doon. Kasama dito yung Diwata 1, no? Yung, di ba, naging Philippine Space Agency. Satellite, kasama dyan sa program na yan. Including the satellite dishes and the massive servers na ginagamit until now. Ang NOAA, kinuha na ng UP. No? It's now known as the UP NOAA Center. But the products that were developed, no, are still there. They can be viewed from the website noaa.up.edu.ph. And yung people behind NOAA, kasi hindi naman ito basta kung may nakalabas na lang dyan. Di ba? You need to work to produce those outputs. Nandiyan pa rin sila, no? And they continue doing the work but not on a national scale anymore. It is done na kapag ka merong LGU na humihingi ng tulong, like for example, Balanga City, City of Manila, Quezon City, Science City of Muñoz, Iloilo, tinutulungan yan ng UP Resilience Institute with the UP NOAA Center as its core component. So nandun pa rin yung experienced, skilled people doing the job, the same things that they were doing. And it's still funded by Congress kasi UP is government also. Okay.
Let's, Professor Mar, let's step a few years back, okay? Let's start with how did NOAA come to be? Ang alam ko lang kasing Noah's Ark, biblical ang aking perspective. Nakaka-nervyos eh. Kasi pag sinabi mo sa aking NOAA, medyo teka, bahaan to death yan eh. Pero okay, Project NOAA, how did that come to be?
Well, in 2011 or 2012, sabi ni Pinoy na gumawa ng isang responsive program against disaster impacts. No? Okay. And then Secretary Montejo was given that task. No? So Sec Montejo, being an engineer and a techie guy who understood about technologies, sabi niya, why not tap natin yung mga researchers that are funded by DOST, and convert natin yung kanilang output, make it into action research, and let's make the research operational. No? So marami yun. No? They were gathered, mga researchers, to work with agencies, no? DOST, ASTI, PBOX, Pag-asa, and many others, no? To create a responsive program. Okay? And what we thought was, ito ang gawin natin. No? Ang basic principle was to make use of local resources. No? By local resources, I'm not just talking about materials, but human resources as well. So we train our people, buy the instruments that are needed, and do it ourselves para mas mura ang ating disaster efforts, di ba?
Okay.
Kasi costly pagka palaging outsiders ang gagawa for us, di ba? We have the talent, we have the intelligent people, di ba? We can buy those instruments and we can learn it and in fact manufacture and deploy ourselves, no? Kasi yan ang basic best practice yan na the use of local resources is always the best for disaster preparedness. No? So that is what NOAA is. No? So maraming mga projects yan, including mapping the whole Philippines, hazards mapping, using the best available technologies.
Can we spell it out, Professor Mahar? Ano yung mga services or menu para maintindihan ng mga Pilipino? No? Pinoy said, let's come up with a program na malalaman natin o mapaghahandaan natin kahit anong klaseng bagyo, earthquake, indulto na tumama sa atin. So you got all of the intelligent or intellectuals in the Philippines, hindi lang yung umiisip, gumagawa. Now, you came up with Project NOAA, sama-sama na DOST, Pag-asa, etc. Ano yung menu na pinagpipilian doon?
Okay. Yung storm surge that started after Yolanda, no, yung project. Minapa yung buong Pilipinas ng mga storm surge levels na beyond what we have experienced or beyond what is in the historical record. So, pag may storm surge, hindi lang yung kung ano yung alam natin na hampas ng storm surge, ng tubig sa dalampasigan. Kung hindi, scenarios that are bigger than what we expect, di ba? And then we make those scenarios, they're called as probabilistic hazard scenarios, no? Kumbaga may maliit, may mas malaki pa, at may climate change, di ba? May climate change. You use those maps to plan the community, not just for the evacuation center, but to plan it across all sectors like energy, education, infrastructure, tourism, agriculture, environment, etc. We know that the biohazard COVID-19 affected all sectors, di ba? Inapektuhan yung ating infrastructure. Ganon din ang hazard, like storm surge hazard, it will affect all sectors.
Okay, so pinaghandaan ninyo hindi, kasi dati we only talk about waves, mga alon, mga matataas na alon, tapos sinasabi na nila bilang hindi na alon yan, tsunami na yan, tumama na yan. So usually dito sa Pilipinas, historical o kung ano na yung mga nangyari at posibleng mangyari for counting forecasting. But dito sa Project NOAA, yung storm surge application, pinag-aralan nyo, gumawa na rin kayo ng mga kung ganito ang mangyari, saan tama, kung ganito kalaki yung mga baha o yung alon, ano ang magiging ilang kilometers inward. Kasi katulad sa Tacloban, tumulong kami doon. Mga kaibigan
2 to 3 kilometers.
Exactly. Never nangyari yun na pumasok yung tubig na pader o kataas ng building 3 kilometers inland. So, ginagawa niyo yung plano para pag may mga lugar na titirahan ng tao or areas where people or businesses are developing, the government can say, wait a minute, teka, if scenario 1, 2, or 3 happens, this is the number of people who will die. This is the number of buildings that will be wiped out. Correct?
Exactly. Chito, yung dati kasi, yung mga mapa before NOAA, only reflected anecdotal accounts, no? Historical record lang. NOAA, when they came in, pumasok yung what they call as probabilistic multi-scenario per hazard. In this case, what we're talking about is the hazard ng storm surge. So may maliit, may mas malaki pa, may Gayolanda, merong climate change. That is what we need. Kasi after all, when we studied yung lahat ng mga victims na accounts, no, pag may disaster, sabihin nila first time nangyari ito, unexpected.
Mhm.
Hindi pa kami nakakita ng ganito, no? Wala pang ganyang kataas dati. Palagi yan, year after year, that is what we say. It only tells us that we failed to anticipate those scenarios bigger than the historical record or what we experienced. So, ano ang solusyon? Kailangan gumawa ka ng scenarios, no? Get them to visualize it through hazard maps.
Walang
Oo.
Walang pinagkaiba doon sa mga building dito sa Metro Manila. Gumagawa sila ng 50 stories, 60 stories. Ang tanong ko, meron na bang mga fire truck dito na may ladder na 50 story? Meron ba tayong mga helicopter na kayang lumapit doon sa mga building na yan pag nagkasunog katulad nung nangyari sa China? So, kailangan talaga pag-isipan. So, storm surge. Tapos, ano pang mga menu meron, Professor?
Meron din sa landslide, no? Ganon din, 100% buong Pilipinas. Pero kulang ng climate change scenarios. Flood, 60 to 70%, mga 70% of the Philippines mapped in very high detail. Yung detail niya is one that is desired by the insurance industry, no? Kasi they talk about large sums of money to pay yung pag nag-i-insure sila, no? Yun, so kaya tama yung sinasabi ni President BBM, no? Ano ang nangyari? Bakit hindi natin na-anticipate, no? Yung nangyari sa Kusyong, you were discussing it. That is a debris flow that happened already during Pablo sa Compostela, Barangay Andap. Buried yung debris flows, it's rampaging waters na hindi tubig lang, kung hindi 80% boulders and gravel with water na 20%. And it buried people in Barangay Andap during Typhoon Pablo sa 2012. That happened in Pusyong. It seems like it, no? Kasi same appearance, may mga boulders, and it buried more than 100 houses. Wala daw, according to the news sa Philippine Star, na wala pa daw ma-recover dun sa lugar na yon, ano? Ayun, so bakit? Ang tanong ay bakit hindi natin na-anticipate? Kasi nga, the maps that we use, no? The maps that we use, sabi nga ni Senator Pimentel, hindi naman inuulan eh. So kung ang ulan lang na gamit mo to create that scenario ay dati, tapos nangyari na yung mas malaking ulan, hindi mo na-reflect sa mapa. Remember that the rain itself does not kill. Wala pa akong kilalang na napatakan ng ulan at namatay. Kailangan, there must be a group, in this case NOAA, that translates that rainfall na heavier than before, translates it into a hazard map. So pag wala ka ng you will not expect it, di ba?
Okay.
So yun ang nangyari.
We'll go for a quick break, Professor Mar Lagmay, and pagbalik natin, let's tackle all of this because I remember distinctly just before COVID, there were already hazard maps way up north. And they actually said, puro red zones na yan, hindi na dapat patirahan ng tao. Ngayon, pati na sa Mindanao, meron na ring red zone. So, how prevalent is this problem of unstable soil, etc.? And let's continue our conversation. We'll be right back after this quick break here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program agenda. Joining us once again is Professor Mahar Lagmay of the UP Resilience Institute and probably one of the poster boys for Project NOAA na dapat daw tawagin ng program NOAA. Okay, Professor Mahar, you were saying.
Yeah, so tuloy natin yung nangyari doon sa Kusyong, di ba? Tapos sabi din ni Senator Coco Pimentel, bakit talagang hindi pa nangyayari yung ganyan? Now, if we create scenarios of hazards that is used as basis to respond, no, to whatever, to take action or plan, we fall short of the preparations, di ba? Kasi may climate change na. Yung dating hindi nangyari na. So, pag dumating yung ulan na mas malaki doon sa alam nila, it's not reflected in the maps that is used to the people to prepare. Okay. Wala kasing namamatay sa ulan. Wala akong kilalang namatay pa sa ulan. Somebody, a group needs to translate that amount of rainfall that is expected, bigger than what happened before, into hazard maps that is used for planning by the community. So, yun yung NOAA, ang ginagawa ng NOAA. May mga ginagawa kaming rainfall na pag sinabi ng Pag-asa, ganito yung rainfall, mas malaki sa climate change, you have to translate that into a flood map. So, ngayon, kung sa historical record at saka anecdotal account, sinabi na hindi naman nagbabaha dyan, baka in the future, because of climate change, magbabaha na. And when that happens, it may strike the community as what happened doon sa Kusyong, unexpected. So yan na naman ang sinasabi, di ba? Hindi pa nangyari to eh. Pero kung meron tayong tinatawag na probabilistic risk assessment, which is actually a climate change resolution, Commission Resolution of the Philippines. It was stated in the PDP 2017-2022. It is highly recommended by the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction. We have to incorporate those bigger scenarios than what we have experienced. Ang tawag probabilistic scenarios. Pag hindi natin ginawa yon, it does not reflect in the plans, yung hazard maps. Pag dumating yung malaking ulan that will translate into a flood or a mudslide, we fall short of our preparations. Pag merong mga victims na makakapagsasalita after the disaster, as what happened after Paeng, sasabihin nila, hindi pa nangyayari dito yan. It has never happened before. Wala pa kami nakikitang ganyan. That is the problem. We need to do anticipatory planning. And to do that, you need the services of itong ganitong gumagawa ng para sa insurance industry ng mga multiple scenarios of every hazard. May maliit, may mas malaki pa, at merong climate change scenarios. If we do not do that and we plan all our cities and municipalities according only to the historical record, we will always fall short. And year after year, yan ang sasabihin ng mga tao pag na-disaster. Bakit hindi na-anticipate yan? Kasi we failed to project those scenarios in the plans of the community.
Professor Mahar, anticipation, probabilities, they're relative. Kumbaga, there is this probability scenario 1 week before the typhoon. There is this probability scenario 3 days before the typhoon na sasabihin lahat kayo mag-evacuate. But the one you're talking about is not about when a typhoon is on the way or when whatever strong winds are happening. You're talking about how towns, cities, populations are placed or developed, correct?
Correct. That is correct. Bali, ganito, merong ulan na maliit, di ba? Madalas mangyari. That will translate to a flood, di ba? Maliit na baha. Minsan naman, yung ulan, it will deliver heavy rainfall, torrential rainfall. Ang translation nun sa baha ay mas malaki. Ay pag dumating na ang climate change, sa projected impacts nila, yung ulan na mas malakas pa, that will translate into a bigger flood. Diba? Now, that can happen anywhere in all barangays of the Philippines. Lahat ng barangays ng Pilipinas nagkakaroon ng baha, no? Pero every barangay in the Philippines also, kung may adjacent man o kung hindi man doon sa barangay, merong mga safe areas na pwedeng puntahan or safest places na pwedeng puntahan. Now, kung ang ating pagpaplanuhan ay yung maliliit lang na baha, no, na alam natin na nangyari sa lugar, hanggang doon lang ang preparations natin. We need to anticipate the climate change impacts. Paano magta-translate yung ulan na yon? Ano yung distribution ng baha? Gaano kataas yung baha? Alin ang mga tatamaan ng baha na mas malaki doon sa alam natin? Ang tawag doon, if you prepare for that, it's called as climate change adaptation. No? That's parang catchword yan sa mga proposal sa research. Pag sinabi mong climate change adaptation, nandyan ang pondo. You were talking about, Chito, na i-review yung ng Congress yung ating budget sa DRR. I would suggest, humbly suggest, to our congressmen and senators, gawin muna natin yung basics, yung fundamental, which is to create hazard maps that are used for planning for climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction, using maps that are reflective of the bigger events than what we have experienced.
Can you create a scenario? Can you create a scenario or an example para kasi may mga nanonood sa atin. Ganito. Gusto ng example.
Ito, pinakamagandang example, Metro Manila, siguro para mas maintindihan. Nagkaroon tayo ng Ondoy noong 2009. Correct? Grabe yung baha ng Ondoy. But before Ondoy, let's say 2007, 2008, nobody expected that kind of flooding. Diba? Lahat tayo, we believe, even there was Marikina is high and dry, diba? There was a promotion, Marikina is hindi aabot dito, no? Alam nila na nagbabaha doon sa Marikina, but not to that extent. 'Di ba? Yung mga nasa Grand Villas, alam nila nagbabaha sa Marikina, but not to that extent. So, nangyari yung Ondoy. Mas malaki doon sa alam nila o natatandaan nila. So anong nangyari? Weren't they caught by surprise? Many got caught by surprise. And ano yung sinabi ng mga survivors? First time nangyari yan. Hindi namin ini-expect yan. So that means na kailangan mong i-anticipate yung Ondoy if you were living in 2007. You need to make maps that reflect the situation na nangyari nung Ondoy, bigger than what is in the historical record. If we were living in 2007 or 2008. No? Yun ang isang example na you must reflect those bigger events in the plans of the community so that they can respond accurately.
How much of a multiplier effect does climate change or impact formulate? Pasensya na po mga kaibigan, para magkaintindihan tayo. Maraming lugar binabaha, okay? Yung Marikina River, dati naman binabahayan pero hanggang kalsada lang. Nung nag-Ondoy, lampas tao na sa kalsada mismo, lampas building na. Kung mathematics, which I'm very poor at, if we talk mathematics, how many times does climate change multiply impact? Is it now, if you factor in climate change, it's going to be now 10 times higher, it is going to be so many more feet higher, etc.
Okay. Sa nakikita ko sa mga ginagawa ng mga scientists, yung ulan dadami by about 20%, 15 to 20%. Yung ulan. Yun ang mga projections. And it will also depend kung ganong dami yung greenhouse gas emissions na ilalabas natin in the future. But the projections are, the rainfall, siguro roughly, lagyan na natin sa 10 to 20% more rain. But again, ang sinasabi ko, pag meron kang projection ng more rain, hindi naman yung ulan ng hazard, di ba? Somebody must translate that into a flood hazard map. Kasi the rainfall itself does not kill. It's the floods.
It's the floods.
Okay. if we do not have those scenarios of floods, of climate change, then how can we do planning against those projected impacts of climate change? So kung babalik tayo sa Undoy, 2007 ngayon ang panahon, ang taon. Hindi natin ini-expect. We have to make those scientific calculations, simulations, modeling so that people can visualize and use it in their plans, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Yun. So ang suggestion ko is, since we're going to my humble suggestion is since dadagdagan yun na rin, kung hindi natin gawin yung fundamental, yung mga basics, this is a very fundamental thing to do. We have to create probabilistic risk assessments. Yung bawat storm surge scenario ay meron tayong multiple scenarios, no?
Yeah.
Yung bawat storm surge event, bawat flood event sa bawat munisipyo, meron tayong multiple na scenarios of floods, including climate change.
Is this something that my daughter or one of your students who's very good at computers and apps, is this something you can produce in 1 month, in 6 months? Kasi we're already in the middle of hell.
Oh yeah. Well, it depends, nung NOAA, nung ginawa namin yung probabilistic scenarios but without climate change. 100-year rain return lang yung the ones that happen once every 100 years, no? We were able to do it within the span of 4 years, no? 3 to 4 years. Pero ito lang yung dami ng tao na gumawa at ito lang yung dami ng computers that were available. But I think if we were really to put that, how much increase? 2 billion? 1 billion for DRR? If you put that into the efforts of government to produce these probabilistic risk assessments, and buy the computers, buy the computers, hire the people, kasi we have the technology, we know, we have the skills, we can do it.
But how quickly can it done? Sorry, Prof, kasi I want to ask all the questions with the little time we have together. But
right.
How quickly can it be done?
Pag dinamihan natin, let's say maglagay tayo ng 200 people na magagawa with 200 supercomputers, I believe in 6 months kayang gawin yan.
Okay, 6 months
to 1 year.
Now, okay, 6 months. You come up with a probabilistic app, a program. So, pag ganito kalaki yung rain band, ganito kalaki yung kanyang projected rainfall o yung wind or area of devastation ng earthquake, etc. These are the scenarios. Now, you've done that in the past. UP people, DOST, NDRRMC, Pag-asa, Bureau of Soils, etc. Lahat naman may nagawa in fairness to people in government. Pero dineclare na nga natin yung kabundukan in the north as red zones. Hindi po communist, hindi red tagging. Red zones na hindi dapat tirahan, pero tinirahan pa rin, pinagtaniman pa rin. So, won't we be throwing good money after bad, Professor?
Yun ang maganda dito sa mga modeling and simulations that are validated on the ground, no? When we look at all of these scenarios, no, even yung malalaking scenarios, combine the storm surge, the flood, as well as the landslide maps. When you combined it, no, there's still left per province mga 30 to 40% walang hazard. Kasi the business of hazards mapping is really to identify the safest areas, not just the hazards. Mm-hmm. So we have to use the best technologies to do that. And we already found out na by using these kinds of maps, no, na scenarios, even if you combine all of these hydrometeorological hazards, we're still left with about mga 40, sometimes 50%. And those are the places where we should site evacuation centers. Those are the places where we should site future development. Kasi pagka nilagay mo yung development do sa identified safest places na yon, pag dumating yung baha, they are out of harm's way. Wala tayong pag-uusapan na disaster.
Now, what about, pasensya ka na, no? Kasi asawa ko tiga Holland, tiga Netherlands, okay? And we have a joke. We have a joke in the house, but it's historical fact. The Dutch have been fighting the sea for more than 100 years, and they're still winning the war. Kumbaga, you have global experts, countries that are so good at creating all of these flood controls, these mitigation models, etc. Is that something where we should invest second? Kasi you're correct. We should invest really on this mapping, this probabilistic scenario building, etc. But at the end of the day, as the video pointed out, there will be areas in Cavite, pati nga Baguio, binabaha na. Never in my youth did we imagine flooding in Baguio. Should we call in the Koreans, the Dutch, etc. Tulungan nyo na kami at kung hindi, baka pati kami malubog, maging Atlantis na kami.
No, yung mga ginagawa ng mga taga-Netherlands, no, they simulate the floods before they make any infrastructure intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Ang sinasabi ko, what we have been discussing is that these simulations that the Dutch do, we can do.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do. And
Yeah.
we did it for the entire Philippines except for those areas na mountainous na sinabi na hindi binabaha. Na sinabi namin na pwedeng bahayin yan, kaya kailangan i-model din natin yan. Baguio, Banawe, no? So, before we make any intervention or any action, we should create the scenarios first. Para nakikita na natin yung scenario at hindi tayo gagastos ng baliwala. Kasi gastos tayo ng gastos if we only prepare for the historical record na scenario, then pag dumating yung mas malaki, edi nawala lahat ng intervention mo kasi walang basis. Ang basis mo ay historical record. We need to have a basis na our plans should anticipate the bigger ones, di ba?
Parang I have a perfect example, Professor Lagmay. Umuwi ako sa Lipad this weekend, just before the typhoon, sa Barangay Inusluban. And nakita ko, they were digging up the canal and putting new culverts. Sariwang-sariwa. Yung mga parang bagong luto at pinapalitan nila. And sabi ko, dapat imbis na culvert, dapat open type canal na lang. Imbis na palit ng ganyan. Anyway, went home. And during the typhoon, Saturday, Sunday, for the first time, I heard of floodings up to waist deep. And then I realized, sabi
yan
ko,
na naman, first time, ikaw na rin nagsabi.
sabi ko, paano nangyari yun dito sa lugar natin? Then I realized, talking to you just today, I remember there is a new diversion road na ginawa. That diversion road was on the other side of the highway, more than 1 kilometer long, where all the water would now cascade straight into the road in front of where we live. So, ayun na po. Kumbaga, human intervention creates new problems and challenges. Anyway, let's go for a quick break. When we return, balikan natin yung menu because you already talked about probabilistic. Tama ba yung spelling? Mamaya, explain mo ngayon the new other menus on the program NOAA. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, welcome back to the program agenda. With us is Professor Mahar Lagmay of the UP Resilience Institute. And Professor, yes, we have a very interesting conversation today. We were talking about how President Bongbong Marcos was really I don't know what hindi naman siya surprise, pero parang in disbelief. Sabi ko nga na ganito na ba talaga ang ating climate change sa Pilipinas? Because you generally just read about it or watch it on TV, but when it hits home, it changes everything. Now, you have established the fact that the president has access to very useful technology, access to the most capable of Filipinos that can help him put together action plans, programs. Now, we were talking about Program NOAA. It is to help Filipinos, according to Pinoy, better prepare or deal with disasters. Now, ano pa yung mga nasa menu?
Marami pa, Chito, kasi we don't just use science and technology, no. We also employ yung mga expertise, yung mga knowledge ng mga social scientists, ng mga anthropologists, psychologists, mga sociologists, mga artists, musicians, no? Kasi we believe that yung effort dapat reaches the people in the barangay, di ba? Mm-hmm. And kailangan maintindihan din yung kultura nila, paano nila itatanggapin, how they will embrace all of this knowledge na derived from science, no? Kasi meron silang sariling beliefs, no? And we need to use the arts like music. Ako, ikaw, kilala mo si Yoyoy Villamin, di ba? Di ba may kanta siya na Magellan, no?
Yeah.
I learned that the Philippines was discovered by Magellan in 1521, no? Sa kanta ni Yoyoy Villamin. Ganon din dapat, di ba? Parang gumawa tayo ng mga songs, let's compose songs about disasters na upbeat para yung mga bata, kinakanta nila yan, para mas maging aware sila. Kasi disaster awareness is the first step, no, towards better preparedness sa disasters. Mm-hmm. Yan. So, marami pang mga ginagawa. And we also help LGUs. If before we did it on a national scale, ngayon, pag may lumapit ng LGU sa amin, we help them with their comprehensive land use plans, their climate and disaster risk assessment, their local climate change action plans. Doon sa LGU na yun, ginagawa namin lahat ng mga multi-scenarios ng hazards, no? Mm-hmm. Hindi multi-hazard, multi-scenario for every type of hazard.
Yeah.
That is reflective of climate change. Para yung kanilang climate and disaster risk assessment, yung kanilang local climate change action plan, tsaka yung land use plan, ay maipaplan nila across all sectors, education, tourism, environment, agriculture, etc., infrastructure, na nakikita nila ano yung posibleng scenario ng baha with climate change. And that
but can you localize response given our national situation? Because I remember pre-COVID, may na-interview akong governor in the north. And sabi niya, alam mo, Sito, ang problema namin, pag umihi yung mga nasa taas ng bundok, kami yung mapanghi. Meaning, the highlands have already been denuded, nakalbo na, and then marami ng mga urban population centers. So, katulad nga dun sa amin na pag umulan, lahat ng ipon, even Marikina in itself is okay, as you pointed out. They have a natural drainage. But once the rains hit Tanay, Baras, etc., Antipolo, patay na sila.
Yeah, that's a very good question, observation, Sito, no? Hazards do not recognize boundaries, no?
Mm-hmm.
Political boundaries, administrative boundaries. Okay? Ang hazards, pare-pareho yan within the watershed, no? So ano ba yung watershed? From the mountains to the sea, no, or lake. yun ang watershed kung lahat ng tubig that is dumped by the clouds, by the rain, yung rainfall that is dumped, will follow the same drainage network leading to a single river that drains into the sea. So, dapat doon sa watershed na yon that encompasses many cities and municipalities plan together. Kasi pag nandoon sa bundok yung ulan, lahat ng epekto mararamdaman hindi lang ng munisipyo doon sa bundok, kung hindi mula sa bundok hanggang doon sa coastal area. So,
I'm sure,
they should plan together.
I'm sure you're already gathering data as we speak. Now, what is the probability? Because, if the president were going to ask you, Professor Lagmay, do we have to work out a re-engineering program? Kasi all over, flooding.
Meron kasing tinatawag sito na high impact, low frequency, na bihira mangyari pero high impact. Katulad nung Ondoy, high impact pero bihira mangyari. Pero dahil sa climate change, nagiging mas madalas. Okay? Meron din yung mga baha na small impact pero nangyayari very often. Okay. So, before you make any intervention, kailangan alam mo yung scenarios na yon. Kasi iba-iba ang klase ng baha. Depende sa ulan yan. Now, the appropriate intervention should be understood first. Di ba? Reflective dapat yung intervention of the situation that can happen in a particular area. Yun ang ginagawa namin. We create the scenarios so that the intervention alam kung ano yung risk. At kung merong tinatawag na residual risk, dapat yon siguro cover ng insurance yon. And the insurance people will have to know that kind of scenario para mas malaki yung premium na ilalagay nila. At pag nangyari yon, na bihira mangyari, maliit yung probability, alam nila yung premium at ready sila na magbayad doon sa maniningil.
Okay. Key question, Professor Lagmay. And I don't want to put you in the spot, but I think you are in a better position than I am. Is it going to get worse than it will? Is it going to get worse before it gets better?
It's going to get worse. That is that is the projection of many scientists from all over the world. And hindi lang po ako ito. Yung mga interventions na sinasabi ko, probabilistic risk assessment, hindi lang din po ako ang nagsasabi niyan. The United Nations says it. They have a document called Words into Action. Nakasama doon yung probabilistic risk assessment. Yun ang recommendation nila na gawin kasi they project that it will get worse. Ito because of climate change. Lalo na kapag hindi tayo nagtigil ng pagbuga ng usok sa langit, sa hangin.
Okay.
Global warming will continue and the impacts will be adverse to us.
Okay. Well, I think you have warned our audience fair and square, and we thank you for all the information you shared with us, and I pray that the UP Institute of Resilience will have the ear of the President. God will give you favor and that you will be able to contribute immensely to our disaster preparedness. Professor Mahar Lagmay, thank you very much for your work and for your time today.
Chito, willing po kaming tulungan ang pamahalaan, willing po kaming tulungan ang ating mga kababayan. Yan po ang aming purpose, ang mission, at sana po ay makapagtulungan po tayong lahat.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Mahar Lagmay. God bless you. Have a good day, sir.
Okay. Sige.
Okay, let's now go to our blessing for the week. And it is a prayer. It's in the form of a prayer for our country, which we all need at this very moment, given all the stuff we are confronted with. And it goes, Lord, thank you for this brand new day. Today I pray for my beloved country. Show us your mercy and compassion. Bless our leaders with wisdom. Grant our country peace, unity, and prosperity. Protect our nation. Amen. Thank you very much. I'm Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us today here on Agenda. Please keep it here on One News.